Where you going? Do you want to come in here with me?
I wonder, I was trying to count your children, I couldn't find one.
I promise it's not.
You can go back there.
I promise it's not a baby.
Watch out.
Who knows?
I think I've been here all day this morning, I never was done. But I know. This morning we were in Matthew 4, chapter 4. We'll see how we get along here. We'll read. Let's read 1 through 6, please. Matthew 21 through 6. 1 through 8, sorry. 1 through 8.
For the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is a householder, which went out early in the morning to hire laborers into his vineyard. And when he had agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right I will give you. And they went their way. Again he went out about the 6th and 9th hour, and did likewise. And about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing idle, and said unto them, Why stand ye here all the day idle? They said unto him, Because no man hath hired us. He saith unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right, that shall ye receive. So when even at was come, the Lord of the vineyard said unto his steward, Call the laborers and give them their hire, beginning from the last unto the first.
Why do you figure it was the last and first? Going along with what's been said so far. When you get your paycheck, what do you do?
Spend it.
Deposit, spend it, you usually get it, you're gone, right? Yeah, I mean, anymore it's kind of hard to say that because everybody gets a direct deposit. I mean, you don't get a check like you you go get a check and then you leave, you go cash it, you get the 9 first, 9 or whatever. But yeah, here it's not that way. How much was denarius?
How much was what?
A denarius. That amount they were paid. A penny, 17 cents according to today's standards. It was a day's wages at that time. I mean, today's wages is quite a little bit higher than that, but they were working for a day's wage. What does the day's wage represent? What do we do?
Our reward.
Our reward, right? It's what we're allowed to have for the time spent, basically. When these workers were hired, when were they hired? As an overall view, when were they hired?
Morning, early.
All
No, the first set, partially throughout the day.
of them? Throughout the day, there's all one. All hours of the day, even up to the last hour before you would quit. So they were all brought in, they worked all different, I mean, each one of them worked a different hour. And when you're working, you're really not talking, I guess, about how much you're gonna get paid, but at that time, they were getting paid for the same thing, yet they didn't realize it. All right. Somebody wanna read verse 9 and 10, please?
And when they came that were hired about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. But when the first came, they supposed that they should have received more, and they likewise received every man a penny.
In today's culture, what do we notice with workers? People in general.
They think they should all get paid.
More, right? If they find there longer, I should get paid more. What did these men agree to at the beginning? When they were hired on, what did they agree to? They agreed to work for the amount set. I mean, the easiest way to say it. They all agreed to the same thing. This guy went out and he brought people in for the same thing. If we go and we take that spiritually, how are we paid? eternal life. But there's,
We're supposed to get.
if right now is the end, those that have been here longer are gonna get more than those that just started. We're all guaranteed the same thing, right? All right. We're gonna look at some verses here and see how they were supposed to do it according to the Old Testament. Somebody want to read Leviticus 9:13, please? Leviticus 9:13.
Then they presented the burnt offering to him with its pieces and head, and he burned them on the altar.
Did that say it wrong?
Okay, so this.
I haven't heard that ever. No, that was the first one for me. I didn't get that word down correctly. Deuteronomy 24, 14, and 15. Maybe I got that one right.
You shall not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, whether one of your brethren or one of the aliens who is in your land within your gates. Each day you shall give him his wages, and not let the sun go down on it, for he is poor and has set his heart on it, lest he cry out against you to the Lord and it send you.
Okay. What were they supposed to pay? According to the Old Testament law.
Their wages.
But they are, right? There wasn't supposed to be any allowance. The other thing I noticed is you read this time, granted, having somebody else read it said you can hear more. You notice they paid the aliens, the outsiders the same way, right? They didn't treat anybody any different, whether Jew or Gentile, that mattered. Everybody was paid at the end of the day, regardless. So, and the work, the workers at that time, you notice, he went out and hired them individually like a market type of a deal. We don't really see that type of a workload today. And at that time, the great gathering or harvesting, I guess I don't really know, you guys don't farm grapes, but was in August and September. And it was before it rained, so they had to get it. It's not even really any different than us today on row crop. Comes into the year, you gotta get it out before it turns off. The weather turns bad, and you don't gather as much. So they had to kind of do it in a hurry on how they were getting it done. Let's go to Matthew 19:27 through 30. That's it.
19:27. And Peter answered and said to him, see, ye have left all and go to the therefore what shall we have? So Jesus said to him, assuredly say to you that in the regeneration when the Son of Man sits on his glory, you who will follow me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother, whether love wife or children or lands, for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last first.
All right. So, the Jews at that time believed in, if you did something good, you got married before. So the more you did, the more blessings or whatever you would get out of it, the more you would be granted. But yet, what does Christ say here? What do we notice about first and last?
They thought that they should get more.
First and last.
Because they were longer hours.
And switch them around. We liken that to the church, or we bring an assembly towards it, make it the same thing. And a person that's baptized today, starts today, gets in a car wreck or something and dies, or something happens to them, or even an older person, you never know your time. It just is what it is at that point. But we're supposed to be, kind of watching, be prepared. A lot of what we've been reading through these parables is more of a prepared state of mind. And even if you're the first one there, that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna be the first one at the end. Ephesians 2, 8, 9, somebody else.
For by grace you have been saved, through faith, and that not of yourself, it is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast.
Get it up or whatever. Hear me really good. Voice is dragging. The Old Testament, and the only reason why I say this is because I've heard it several times. You know, there's nobody, Paul didn't want to boast of himself. What does that speak of the people around if he's saying it? Do you think they were kind of boastful on some of the stuff that they've done? You know, it'd be like us keeping score of how many times we get up here and speak, or who does this, or who does that, or who's baptized who. At the end of the day, we're not working for ourselves and see what kind of scoreboard I can run up. How do people out in the world today to keep track of things? You think about it. Especially in sports. I mean, we all sat here and watch sports. I'm going to bring us back to that. But professional sports, we sit there and we watch them. And if our team wins, what do? Naturally.
Brag about it.
Oh, you're going to brag about it, right? And you come back in the next year and you're going to want to win again. Human nature is I want to be able to say something that I'm up here. But yet, how is Christ? If you think about it. And his example of humbleness should have been a real good example for us to say, hey, I'm not keeping score on what I've done. And when it comes to church activities and things like that, you know, just because you do a lot doesn't mean you sit there and say, well, look at me, I've done this. Because in reality, who gave us the time to do this? Christ. God's give us the abilities that we're using. Since we just got done with talents, that's a pretty good roll into this. He's given us the things that we're capable of using to further his word. We're not to keep score on see how much Andy can do for him because it's going to give me a better reward. The reward is all the same throughout this. They didn't get any higher, as we'll see here in just a minute. All right. Kathy hasn't hit me with a question yet. I'm kind of surprised. She's thinking. That's the scary part of it. And she gets to thinking, it makes me sweat. All right. Somebody want to read 1 Timothy 2:4, please?
Who will have all men to be saved and to come unto knowledge of the truth.
So God's desire is not for anybody to be condemned, right? He's not looking for those to disobey. He really doesn't want that. But yet, we've got the ability to do whatever we want, really, when it comes down to that. We can either obey and follow him or not. All right. Forget where I'm at for just a second here. Jump back to 20. I think we got to verse 10, didn't we? Mm-hmm. All right. Let's go 11 through 16, please.
And on receiving it, they grumbled at the master of the house, saying, These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat. But he replied to one of them, Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what belongs to you and go. I chose to give to this last worker as I gave to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or do you begrudge my generosity? So the last will be first and the first last.
Okay. As we see there, what do we notice about he singles out one, but I guarantee you, he didn't just single out one. It wasn't just one guy that was grumbling. There was probably one making more noise than everybody else. But when he hired the ones that, and what I gather, hours in the day they're not that they don't make the same as us, but they went on basically a 12-hour schedule. The first hour of the day, about 6 o'clock in the morning. It was hours worked during the day. So the first guy started around 6 o'clock. And being the denarius was the wages for the day, didn't they agree to do it for denarius? Can you complain when you set your own pay scale? Really, you can't. I mean, it's like some of the things I do at side jobs, working on things. I've got an hourly rate, and once you set that, you can't really change off of that. You're set at that. So if you're going to be at that rate, then you're going to get the same amount that the guys that came in later, because they agreed to the same thing. They just started later. It makes their per hour higher, but what's to say that the guys that got hired the first part of the day couldn't have said no in the beginning of the day? How many people do you see that come along that are baptized later in life because they didn't either take action or didn't hear it until later in life? Yet they're still going to get the reward that everybody else gets. Our reward if we're not doing what we're supposed to, if we're not following God. Somebody want to read Matthew 25:41, please?
Then shall I say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels.
Okay. Does God have places prepared for everyone? It's not just one-sided there at all. It's not everybody gets to go. Throughout this parable, we're equating it to what you've worked physically here. But spiritually, God gives us a gift. It's not something that we attain ourselves, but we go out and do the work that he set before us, but ultimately it's a gift. It's not something that is just you can gain on personal merit, I guess is what I would say. Any comments? Since I've been doing all the talking? It scares me. Like I said before, I don't like to be the only one talking, but it does scare me when Kathy talks. She gets me a phone every once in a while, gets me to be quiet and think.
You know, if you think about this.
See?
I mean, I understand what the parable's about. I mean, they're just trying to make you understand that it's the same for everybody. The same is spiritual. I mean, the only part that's different is the complaining, because it's very physical. You can complain. Well, if you die, you can't complain. You know, you're dead. So you can't complain that, you know, Lauren got more than I did because I'm dead already. And it's just the fact that you can get everything. You're treated equally no matter what, no matter when you became part of God's kingdom.
It puts everybody on a level playing field, really, is the way I viewed it. And another thing I noticed, I guess, when I was studying it, was the fact that, and I had a hard time maybe understanding or apply it to Peter, but when he asked Christ that, you know, all the disciples had followed him until a certain point, and then they were like, wait a minute, what he said bothered us. So the 12 kept following, and Peter goes, you know, we followed you, what is our reward? And that's what Matthew 19:27-30 was about, was his questioning. But what I could get out of it, with more study on that topic and backstory, I could probably weed it out a little bit better. But the question of, hey, we followed you through all of this, what's our reward type aspect? And you see a lot of that with people around. They want the acknowledgement or the, look, I've done this, so I want a bigger reward type, versus everybody gets the same. All right. We'll we'll jump over to here. We'll be in chapter 25 of Matthew. We'll go to the 10 virgins. I know this thing, like I said.
Still got the mind on the last to the first, and first to the last.
Okay.
I know what's saying, I just go for it. Be out there.
This is scary. You're telling me to go out. It's like it's stated, the first to last, last to first. Kathy had a pretty good with it, was the fact that, say I go and I'm dead, and everybody else there is still going. And then as we go along, everybody dies off or the end comes and everybody's dead.
Reward's the same thing.
The reward's the same, clear through.
I got it.
Just because you go first or last, it doesn't matter. You're not gonna, like he said here, the guys that started first in the morning were the last ones paid. They got to see what the last ones got paid, but the last ones agreed to the same thing that they did.
But they didn't work as long, or you weren't as Christian as long as you were. You know, like you might have been a Christian your whole life, and I may have been a Christian just, 2 days. But I got treated the same. My reward was the same.
You were,
Got her handle, just want to make sure one time about money.
no, this is more of the spiritual side, and that's what he's referring to in it. And it's, and I see the point where the first and last come together. But you look at a Christian that's newly baptized, and their drive, they may not have all the scriptures memorized or down, but the drive was still there. So you could see why the reward would be the same, because usually they're wanting to go. It's like getting a new, we can pick on Aaron, he's not in it. He got a new car, so he's all excited about it. And that excitement is the same with a new Christian on the fact that, hey, let's go out here and do something with it. Let's use it.
Well, it's an equalizing thing. That's what it means. It's just a great equalizer. Those that worked a long time are going to be last, and those that be first. But, there's going to be, when a person gets to heaven, a person that lived their whole life being persecuted, they're going to really, really, really appreciate heaven. That doesn't mean nobody else is going to appreciate heaven. Just, we haven't been through that kind of persecution in our life. Doesn't mean we're not going to appreciate it. And the person that just became a Christian, they're going to appreciate it. But someone that has been a Christian their whole life and dealt with things and maybe been persecuted, they're going to really appreciate it. And so it's not really a degree of heaven, but they worked a lot and they worked for what they got, and they're really going to appreciate it. Same way with hell. A person that never heard the truth, it's going to be terrible. But the person that had the truth and left, it's going to be even worse because they knew what they had and they rejected it. So
It's the, yes, for no better purpose, it's the reward you've got either direction. Either one side, you're going to be awful sorrowful. And like Eric said, the ones that knew the right and did wrong, once that becomes a realization point for them, it'll hit pretty hard. I hadn't thought about the one that's been a Christian a long time and the reward for persecution, which during the first century was pretty rough. They're going to appreciate that a little bit more. And then the new ones, they're going to appreciate it because they didn't get the same condemnation that the rest of the world got. One they have to answer for. All right. Any other comments? All right, we'll jump over to chapter 25 of Matthew, 1 through 13.
Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil into the vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was this cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps have gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you, but go ye rather to them that sell and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him and to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh.
Okay. What do we know of the bridal ceremonies or whatever of Jewish time? I learned something. Because I'm thinking, well, you know, it's just like everything else. It's just kind of a thing that goes and comes. But what I was reading on it, when they were betrothed to somebody, I didn't quite understand what all that meant. That meant you're pretty much married. She just did not live in the same house as the husband yet. And that wasn't something that they, you know, if it'd be like getting a divorce if you didn't marry her at that point. Once they were betrothed, that was pretty much your wife. And they would have to have a bill of divorce or divorce papers, basically, in today's standards. And unfaithfulness, adultery, had they basically get rid of them ahead of that. And the second one was there would be a parade per se. That's the easiest thing I can make it go like today. Or they went from, I assume, her parents' house or wherever she lived to his house. And they usually did this at night. Which makes sense. I mean, you work in the daytime, you do this at night. And that's where the torches and or the lamps come into place. Was that in order to do this, you had to have light, right? Most people can't walk around in the dark and see anything unless the moon's really bright. That's not to say that's going to be that way all the time. Or the streets are lit. I mean, you're talking quite a little while ago before they had electricity and sidewalk and thing lights. All right. And this went on for, let's see, where was that at? I read it somewhere else. It was an extended period. It wasn't a short period type of a thing. It took a little while. But yet, not quite as long as what we've seen in this. So it was something new for me. I thought I'd bring that out, and the fact that it wasn't just boom, boom, or they went in. I guess to me, I've always thought that there was something that they just were outside and they went inside. And have a lamp outside, really, I mean, other than where you're setting to see what light you need, I didn't quite comprehend that, I guess, as well as I should have.
You had 10 of them, only one bridegroom. That doesn't sound very good.
Kathy didn't give me the damn on did.
Well, it was the groom coming to the party where she was at, and those waiting outside. It was a feast. When he got there, they all went in together, and there was a feast, the wedding and whatnot. But they had to wait outside; that he couldn't go in until that point. So
What they were waiting on was the processional from outside where the bride and groom were, from that house to the next one, is what it was.
Would it be like a wedding party?
It's like a wedding. It's the wedding.
Like she had.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
bridesmaids.
That's what it amounts to.
They're yeah.
Yeah,
There's bridesmaids.
yeah. I was always like wrong. I never did quite comprehend. I didn't get
You're
this.
like, he got 1 of 10.
Yeah, but I just didn't quite. Couldn't wrap my mind around that, I guess, the way I should have. And I learned a lot studying this, really, on that front so far. And because there was 10 of them, you pick one. That's the way I thought. But no, it's the wedding party per se. But they were waiting on them to come to leave, because there was a little get together at the bride's residence. I'll put it that way. And then it went to the bridegroom. It went to their house basically, and then that was where they had a feast and party and things. Now that I've lost my mind, or at least where I was at. What do we see with these? Let's start off with how many virgins were there? 10. Okay. Out of these 10 virgins, what do we have?
5 smart and 5 not so smart.
5. That's pretty well. And if we try to let's take this from then till today. What does that give us an example of?
5 that wanted to be there and 5 that maybe it wasn't their top priority.
So you want to make sure that, if we're looking for the kingdom, I guess, are we going to be prepared?
You need to be.
We need to be.
Pick your good friends and leave the rest behind.
Exactly. That's a real good analogy to it. We've got the 5 wise and the 5 foolish. We got 5, basically, I'll just throw them as people. We got 5 people that are prepared. They're studying, they're following God's word, they're looking. And then you've got 5 that are the same way, but not as prepared, not as willing to make sure that everything that they've got is ready to go on that front. They're not looking out ahead. I'm gonna take these 5 and say that the 5 that had the oil, that were ready, and the reason why they had the oil, I guess I'll go there next, is the lamps that they used would have been like what I've gathered so far, like kind of like oil soaked rags or the old lantern lamp deals. But they would soak the rags with oil and then it would burn off, but it also burned down. That's why they had to trim them up. And you had to have extra oil because the copper oil holder with the lamp portion of it didn't hold a lot. It held very little. So they would run out. That's why they had to have extra on them so that they would be able to go. But yet the 5 here were prepared. They came knowing that there might be a delay. Do we know the time that Christ is going to come? No, we have no knowing. There's no knowledge of when he'll return. So where does that leave us?
Need to take more oil.
We need to take more oil. We need to be prepared. We need to be watching. All right. What time did this bridegroom come out?
After midnight, wasn't it?
Yep, after midnight. So that's kind of, what would that be?
After 12?
Yes.
Early morning.
Early morning. A little later than what they were accustomed to. So that was pretty good. But it was at a time that these virgins didn't expect. I'm sure that the foolish wise, what we're going to call foolish wise, or foolish, 5 wise, but the foolish ones probably figured, it gets dark around here around 9 o'clock. They're going to show up about 8:30. Well, we'll make sure we got enough oil for that time. And then it gets to rolling on, and they're like, I know from personal experience that, about time you think you have enough to get you somewhere, especially like gas in the car, the light's on, I can make it from home Bigleville. No big deal. One of these times, I guarantee it's going to bite me. I'm going to end up walking, but it hasn't yet. But there's always those people out there that want to push it just a little bit too far and think that they've got enough to make the distance. You want to make sure it's something that you've got, like the wise, so your distance isn't spread so thin. And then be expecting the unexpected, per se. Be prepared for the things that you don't think will happen, but there's a possibility. All right. What was the difference between the foolish and the wise virgins?
The wise was prepared and the foolish was.
Very good. You had ones that were ready to go, and those are not. Do we have people today that are that way? I'm a pessimist, I tell you right now. I mean, I'm the last one in the house and usually getting told about it all the way through till we leave. But I can liken myself to that. But yet there's always the ones that are prepared early. My wife, example, she's got everything around. She's always got everything studied up, and her stuff's over here perfect, and I'm just everywhere.
And who do you depend on?
Who do I depend on? Me in a hurry, because I'm getting told about it in the end. But if you want something done and you have to remember something, you always tell the way. They'll remind you continually. But there's always that, hey, I've got enough oil. I'm just one of those people that kind of want me to be the person for it. So I can see the point to a certain extent. What did the foolish ask the wise?
Ask for the oil. For them to share.
Yeah. Now, I understand the part about being helpful and that, but why wouldn't you share?
Because neither one of you are prepared.
Exactly. You're gonna run out. Somebody else's poor planning does not institute a emergency on my behalf if they didn't come prepared for what was gonna happen, right? Do we have, I mean, how am I gonna word this?
We don't have an obligation to put ourselves in danger of the hellfire to help them. If they haven't haven't prepared themselves to the extent that we have, because they have an obligation to a certain point to make sure they're not in that position.
That's a lot better wording than I would. So, yes, but that's right. We don't have to endanger ourselves because others' bad decisions, I guess is the way I'm gonna put it.
And I'm guessing that they're in panic mode and time is run out.
I'm guessing their lights were starting to kind of flicker and they look like an ember. And it's pretty important, but I don't want to word this. I'm trying to put it into like today's standard or in today's way of thinking. This is one of the moments where your brain goes scattered. If we're not prepared for the things that we should be prepared for, then we had poor planning to begin with. We did not put out the effort that we should have ahead of time, and these girls did not do the same. They did not come prepared for what might happen.
Well, it's like you can't be on your deathbed and about on your last breath and think you're gonna get saved last minute. I mean, that's just not how it works.
That's a good example. I'll go with that. Last second.
You can't
Train
do
of
the
thought.
last second and be like, baptize me now, like, you had a chance.
Yeah. Well, you did not apply yourself to it.
Right.
I know somebody did, hospital bed, preacher come in, sprinkle them, and say,
I can't have, Ron's face is just like a stone. And it's gonna get me, but
But you shouldn't live that way, is what
Yeah.
we're saying. Like, you shouldn't wait until that last second and be like, oh no, I didn't do it right. I had all these signs, but I didn't follow it, like.
they should put out the effort ahead of time.
Right.
Because that's not gonna work a lot of times.
All right, is there any other comments before we close? Thank you.